Welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got a brilliant chess battle packed with tactics, strategy, and surprises. Let's dive right in. Magnus Carlsen opens with d4, thrusting the queen's pawn forward, immediately staking central space and announcing a serious strategic battle ahead. Arjun Erigaisi replies nf6. The knight jumps out alertly, challenging the center and signaling flexible defenses without committing too early. Magnus Carlsen plays nc3, developing smoothly, reinforcing d5 pressure and keeping multiple pawn structures and plans alive. Arjun Erigaisi counters with d5, planting his flag in the center, meeting force with force in classical fighting spirit. Magnus Carlsen deploys bf4. The bishop slides actively, eyeing 7 and provoking subtle discomfort in black's camp. Arjun Erigaisi responds a6, building a solid pawn chain, quietly preparing development while closing diagonal tensions. Magnus Carlsen jumps nb5. An aggressive knight hop, poking at 7 and daring black to waste tempi. Arjun Erigaisi answers na6. An awkward-looking retreat, but it coolly defends 7 and prepares flexible redeployment. Magnus Carlsen plays e3, calmly reinforcing the center and opening dark squared bishop lines for future pressure. Arjun Erigaisi develops b7, completing kingside setup and preparing safe castling amid rising tension. Magnus Carlsen advances h4, a provocative pawn thrust, hinting at kingside expansion and psychological warfare. Arjun Erigaisi castles 0-0, tucking the king safely away before the storm truly breaks. Magnus Carlsen develops nf3, harmonizing pieces and keeping central and kingside options wide open. Arjun Erigaisi strikes with 6, challenging the advanced knight and preparing central counterplay. Magnus Carlsen retreats nc3, conceding space but preserving structure and long-term flexibility. Arjun Erigaisi unleashes k5. The queen steps out aggressively, pinning and pressuring central targets. Magnus Carlsen calmly answers bd3, blocking lines, reinforcing the center, and staring menacingly toward 7. Arjun Erigaisi jumps nd4. The knight lunges forward, attacking c2 and testing white's coordination. The owl. Magnus Carlsen retreats b2, a modest move, prioritizing king's safety and piece cohesion over bravado. Arjun Erigaisi plays nf4, centralizing the knight aggressively, challenging white's harmony head-on. Magnus Carlsen castles 000. Securing the king and signaling readiness for middle game combat. Arjun Erigaisi pushes c5. Striking the center. The position sharpens as lines begin to crack open. Magnus Carlsen jumps in 5. A bold leap. Directly eyeing f7 and igniting tactical sparks. Arjun Erigaisi retreats nf6. Diffusing threats and choosing resilience over risky complications. Magnus Carlsen plays nb5. The knight returns menacingly. Once again hammering sensitive squares. Arjun Erigaisi responds beta7. Calmly interposing the bishop and untangling defensive knots. Magnus Carlsen thrusts afar. Gaining queenside space and preventing black's minor pieces from stabilizing. Arjun Erigaisi counters with c4. Closing the center and locking structures. Committing to long-term plans. Magnus Carlsen plays e3. Reinforcing the center and preparing potential pawn breaks. Arjun Erigaisi develops n-check. Rerouting the knight into the game with renewed central influence. Magnus Carlsen advances b3. Challenging the c4 pawn and opening queenside files. Arjun Erigaisi captures cxb3. Exchanging pawns and opening lines under controlled circumstances. Magnus Carlsen recaptures qxb3. Queen centralizes aggressively. Regaining material and eyeing weaknesses. Arjun Erigaisi plays h6. Kicking the knight and asking white to clarify intentions. Magnus Carlsen retreats nf3. Choosing safety and regrouping over flashy sacrifices. Arjun Erigaisi jumps n4. Reoccupying the center. Pressing tempo and challenging white's setup again. Magnus Carlsen plays rf cone. Lining the rook with a c-file. Subtly preparing pressure against cheek s&t. Arjun Erigaisi answers recite. Matching rooks, and bracing for heavy piece confrontation. Magnus Carlsen develops bd3. Centralizing the bishop, and increasing kingside attacking potential. Arjun Erigaisi retreats qd8. Reset. Consolidating and preparing for the next phase. Magnus Carlsen strikes with bx4. The bishop captures centrally. Willingly exchanging to damage black structure and seize long-term initiative. Arjun Erigaisi responds d4. Recapturing with the pawn. Accepting structural weakness for material balance and open lines. Magnus Carlsen repositions nd2. The knight retreats thoughtfully. Eyeing c4 and f3 while supporting central pressure. Arjun Erigaisi pushes 5. An ambitious thrust. grabbing space and declaring kingside counterplay despite looming risks. Magnus Carlsen jumps and c4. The knight lands aggressively, hitting d6 and d6, tightening the strategic vice. Arjun Erigaisi answers na5. The knight shifts to challenge c4 and protect queenside terrain. Magnus Carlsen captures and sa5, eliminating the knight decisively and scoring a structural victory. Arjun Erigaisi recaptures q5. The queen slides out, restoring material but exposing herself to future tempo gains. Magnus Carlsen plants n6. A powerful outpost. The knight dominates key squares and restricts black's coordination. Arjun Erigaisi plays bx6, is6, giving up the bishop to eliminate the monster knight before it strangles the position. Magnus Carlsen recaptures bx6, dx6, restoring material and activating the bishop on a commanding diagonal. Arjun Erigaisi plays rf7, defending f7 solidly and preparing flexible rook maneuvers. Magnus Carlsen pushes c4, gaining space and locking queenside structure firmly in white's favor. Arjun Erigaisi retreats qd8, stepping back cautiously, aware the queen was becoming a tactical liability. Magnus Carlsen develops bg3. The bishop retreats with purpose, reinforcing kingside and eyeing a5 pressure. Arjun Erigaisi thrusts g5, launching a raw pawn storm, bloodthirsty but dangerously loosening his king. Magnus Carlsen answers b5, centralizing the bishop, blocking lines and staring coldly at 7 in height. Arjun Erigaisi captures gxh4, opening the h-file, grabbing material but tearing open his own defenses. Magnus Carlsen snatches qxbc7. The queen raids greedily, winning a pawn and threatening deeper invasion. Arjun Erigaisi counters qu5. The queen lunges forward, mixing defense with counter threats against g2 dawat. Magnus Carlsen steps catch 2u, calmly sidestepping danger. King safety prioritized amid tactical chaos. Arjun Erigaisi plays ak7, mirroring safety measures as both kings brace for impact. Magnus Carlsen swings Ragon. The rook joins the kingside, signaling a coming attack along the g-file. Arjun Erigaisi responds r8, meeting fire with fire, stacking defenders against looming threats. Magnus Carlsen plays Rabone, bringing the rook into action. Pressure mounts on the b-file. Arjun Erigaisi slides qh5. The queen tucks back defensively, guarding critical squares near the king. Magnus Carlsen plays QBD2. Consolidating gains and keeping multiple threats alive across the board. Arjun Erigaisi captures BSA4. The bishop strikes, grabbing material and trying to distract white's momentum. Magnus Carlsen centralizes QD2, reconnecting pieces and preparing decisive central breakthroughs. Arjun Erigaisi retreats B8. The bishop falls back, bracing for an inevitable storm. Magnus Carlsen plays BF4. The bishop steps forward decisively, reinforcing central control and quietly increasing pressure across the entire board. Arjun Erigaisi answers QG6. The queen slides over defensively, guarding dark squares while watching white's bishops closely. Magnus Carlsen plays B5, centralizing the bishop again, asserting dominance and freezing black's kingside ambitions completely. Arjun Erigaisi retreats QH5. The queen backs away cautiously, sensing the tightening noose around the king. Magnus Carlsen strikes with D5. A powerful central pawn break, blowing open lines and shifting the battle toward resolution. Arjun Erigaisi responds X5, forced to capture, accepting structural damage to avoid immediate collapse. Magnus Carlsen recaptures CXD5, creating a dangerous passed pawn that immediately becomes a strategic nightmare for black. Arjun Erigaisi plays QG5. The queen probes for counterplay, but the move smells of growing desperation. Magnus Carlsen advances Dix. The passed pawn marches forward heroically, stabbing deep into black's position. Arjun Erigaisi blocks with BD7, erecting a final defensive wall directly in the pawn's path. Magnus Carlsen plays B4, calmly repositioning, maintaining maximum pressure while denying black active chances. Arjun Erigaisi replies QF6. The queen retreats again, overloaded and struggling to hold everything together. Magnus Carlsen centralizes QD4. The queen takes command, connecting pieces and signaling endgame conversion mode. Arjun Erigaisi answers QE6, interposing the queen, desperately trying to blunt white's central threats. Magnus Carlsen invades with RB7. The rook storms the 7th rank, slicing into black's position with brutal efficiency. Arjun Erigaisi defends with RF, G saving 7, doubling rooks grimly, forced into pure passivity under mounting pressure. Magnus Carlsen plays B5. The bishop plants itself centrally once more, radiating dominance and total positional control. Arjun Erigaisi responds Rf7, shoring up the 7th rank. But the defense is already cracking. Magnus Carlsen shifts bfr, improving the bishop again, squeezing every last defensive resource from black. Arjun Erigaisi plays Rf G7. Rook shuffles helplessly, a clear sign of defensive paralysis. Magnus Carlsen returns b5, repeating with purpose, methodically tightening the vice without mercy. Arjun Erigaisi lashes out with Rg4, a desperate rook sortie, hoping for counterplay or distraction. Magnus Carlsen captures Rxa7. The rook takes material cleanly, converting pressure into a winning advantage. Arjun Erigaisi pushes h5. A final pawn thrust. More defiance than genuine hope. Magnus Carlsen plays bf4, ignoring distractions, calmly restoring total control over key squares. Arjun Erigaisi responds rh7, piling defenders together. Yet the position continues to suffocate. Magnus Carlsen reserves b5. The bishop dominates the center, symbolizing relentless positional torture. Arjun Erigaisi plays r-gate, regrouping defensively. But coordination remains hopelessly tangled. Magnus Carlsen activates ic7. The rook penetrates deeply, coordinating perfectly for the final blow. Arjun Erigaisi steps kh6. The king creeps forward nervously, visibly hunted and uncomfortable. Magnus Carlsen delivers b4. A precise check, tightening the net and forcing the king backward. Arjun Erigaisi retreats h7. The king stumbles back, running out of safe squares rapidly. Magnus Carlsen plays qu5. The queen centralizes menacingly, threatening decisive material and tactical destruction. Arjun Erigaisi answers rate a7. One last defensive shuffle. Utterly passive and exhausted, Magnus Carlsen strikes with qe6. The queen captures decisively, blowing the position wide open. Arjun Erigaisi recaptures the x-annex. Forced and grim, losing coordination and hope simultaneously. Magnus Carlsen lifts re7. The rook swings powerfully, targeting weaknesses and sealing black's fate. Arjun Erigaisi responds Rf7. A weary final attempt to resist the inevitable. Magnus Carlsen plays Rxex. The rook captures cleanly, and Arjun Erigaisi resigns as the position collapses completely. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next one. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you in the next video.